Hello, this is our second lesson in Financial Maths 1 for preliminary maths. Now what we're looking at today is casual work, overtime and special allowances. Now like I've said before, this really isn't difficult maths, but there's a lot of overlaying of information. In other words, they're big questions. These questions can take up half a page, but none of the maths is more than 1 times 5. It's all very, very simple. But before we do that, let's just quickly explain. Overtime pay is when a wage earner works over their normal hours. So if you're allocated 10 hours and then you have to work 12, that extra 2 hours becomes overtime. And there's different types of overtime. You can have time and a half, double time and a half. You can even have triple time in some extreme cases. An allowance is something that's paid over the top of everything. For example, you earn your normal wage or overtime, and then because you work, for example, in a dangerous area, you might get a little allowance over the top of it. Sometimes people get like uniform allowances or service allowances or remote living allowances and so forth and so on. Now, that compares to casual work in the following, because casual work is entirely flexible. Okay? Casual work is basically set to you weekly or fortnightly, and it's the most flexible of all the work arrangements. Your pay rate is often higher because you get your super and sick and holiday pay loaded onto the top of it. So let's have a bit of a look at a question. Just see down here, is that in sight? Okay. Some linesmen are trained to work on high voltage power lines while they're still operating. They are called live linesmen. A live linesman in an isolated area earns a weekly wage of $1,080.60 plus a site allowance of $104.80 a week and a meal allowance of $6.20 per day and a live line allowance of $5.60 per hour. So that's all things that are added to his ordinary wage, to his weekly wage. So a live line weekly wage of that much, plus site allowance, meal allowance, live line allowance per hour. If he works 9 hours a day for 5 days, calculate his total weekly pay. Now, this question already tells you how much he earns normally per week. So this person would earn $1,080 plus 60 cents per week, plus all of his allowances. So his first allowance is $104.80 per week for his site allowance. Then he has a meal allowance of $16.20 plus a live line allowance, and this is a little bit tricky, or this maths is a little bit trickier, of $5.60 times how many hours he works that week. And it says here, if he works 9 hours a day for 5 days, it's 9 hours a day for 5 days. So we put that in brackets because we need to work that out first, and then we'll add it all together. So now it's basically, we just whack it into the calculator. Let's type in. So $1,080.60 plus $104.20 plus $16.20 plus, and now we're going to put this in brackets because we need to work out what $5.60 times by 9 times by 5 is. We'll whack that in brackets. $5.60 times by 9 times by 5, close brackets. And what do we get? We get $1,453 per week. All the questions are kind of like this, where you have to find out what the wage is and then add all the allowances over the top. I hope this helps.